Thank you for having us. This is wonderful. Thank you, Tammy, for sharing your gorgeous music with us.
Of course. Thank you everyone for being here. Really appreciate it. And thank you so much to Women in Film. I mean, they've become like my family now. So thank you to all of the Women in Film team that are here today to support. And also thank you to LA City, LA, I'm going to get it wrong, LA, oh my gosh, what do we call it? A county here. See, I'm still like getting used to Los Angeles and all the different like terms. But yeah, thank you so much for the support in putting together this event.
Yes. So before we dive into your work for In Her Nature and everything else, tell me a bit about yourself. What's your background? I know you're, aside from being an amazing composer, you also play piano and violin. What else should we know about you?
Yeah, I don't know where to start without being really long-winded, but it kind of all comes down to my grandma. My grandma is my biggest musical influence. She's sadly not with us anymore, but she is definitely here, like with me on this whole journey. What happened was, so she grew up in Sri Lanka, and her parents died by the time she was 12, and so she went to boarding school, and then her elder siblings were like, right, let's just get you married, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of what you do at that time. And she was so passionate about music, and you know, fortunately through boarding school she was able to learn, but she really wanted to do film composition and never got to actually ever learn it. And then finally when she got to Australia, come grandkids and you know what I mean, at 65 years of age she went to study film scoring. And I had the privilege of sitting in the room. I remember like sitting on the floor like by her desk while she was on a typewriter typing away like her assignments, and she would just turn around and talk to me and explain what she was doing, and we'd talk about film, we'd talk about composers, we'd talk about music, and talk about, you know, what are people feeling at the time, how do we convey emotion, how do we convey a story through music. And I think that's what ignited a passion for me to do it. But as like a young kid, I don't know, I'm sure a lot of you can relate as well as being creatives. Kind of just ended up exploring so many different worlds as well as I grew up, and I kind of forgot a little bit about this whole dream of doing like film composing. And so, you know, I was a classically trained pianist. I did all my grades and kind of, you know, did that whole world. I was a violinist as well and played in orchestras in Melbourne, where I grew up. And I also then later on went into the whole kind of like producing songwriting world. And so I had a band, Neo and Georgie, and we used to kind of tour around locally in Australia, and then went on to doing, so I used to do top line vocals and writing and producing for EDM and trance DJs, and was signed to a few labels. So I feel like, I don't know, I've had this like colorful journey, and I feel like all of those experiences have really shaped the musician I am today. And I think that's what's really cool about the arts, is that, you know, no matter what you can do, you can kind of lend from like so many different things. Sorry, that was a really long-winded answer. I didn't even say how I got into composing in the end, but...
Yes, I was gonna say, like, right. Yeah, you and I have that in common of like having a different journey with singing and artistry and things. So yeah, I'm curious, what brought you into composing and then media composing?
Yeah, so actually it happened, I was at my cousin, it's one of those typical stories, right? I was at my cousin's place with his housemate, and his housemate happened to start working for a major like TV production studio in Australia. And he said, oh look, we're working on this show called My First Gig, which featured a rock artist, Jimmy Barnes, who's like, you guys wouldn't know who it is. Only Ida probably over here would know it because she's Australian. But he was interviewing a whole lot of artists on this show about like their first gig in music. And he's like, do you want to just throw your hat in the ring? I'm like, I have no idea. I've never done a TV show before. And I ended up getting that. And so that was my first gig in composing for TV. So I think that just started something, and then I continued to kind of do that. But I was also doing like a corporate marketing job at the same time. So I was doing this at night times and weekends, and I got to a point like after a number of years, I was like, if I don't try and give this a really kind of good go and really kind of dive into it, I might regret it one day. And so I ended up quitting my job and leaving a nice kind of like steady salary and coming to LA and working for a composer over here who worked out of Remote Control Productions, which is founded by Hans Zimmer. And yeah, it was awesome. I mean, like most of you guys have probably experienced, doing like an internship, assistantship, you do everything from like making coffees to taking out the trash. That was literally my last task of my like my last day. I was responsible for taking out the trash. You know, you do all those things, but then I had those amazing experiences of actually getting to see like what it's like to compose at that level. He was working with like major studios at the time, and so it was just an amazing experience. And then, like, you know, many of us, again, COVID hit and it flipped our world upside down a little bit. And I found myself without work and figuring out what I do next. And yeah, come years later, I'm really grateful I'm a freelance composer now working in film and TV.
That's quite a story. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
I unfortunately didn't get the assistantship training and that whole experience, but it sounds very illuminating. It must have been. Tell us, what kind of projects have you done before Inner Nature, and what kind of experience like composing for other TV shows or film do you have? I'm curious.
Yeah, so I've done a whole lot of like feature documentaries. I've worked with National Geographic. I did For Winter. I did a like a comedy feature called Tripped Up. In Australia, I've done TV series as well. So I did the Australian Wars. And at the moment, I'm actually about to work on, so I'm doing a comedy short and then a thriller feature and then also a rom-com feature, which I'm really excited to work on. So it's a bit of a like documentary / scripted. Oh, thank you. It's like I might not fall asleep now. So yeah, it's like it's a combination of everything, which I really love. But yeah, this project was super fun because it was an all women-led team about women and endorsed by the amazing Dr. Jane Goodall. So she gave a blessing over the whole project. She's really kind of close with the producer, and so I don't know, it just was a really special thing to be a part of.
That's amazing. So I'm curious how this project came about. Like, did you pitch on it? Did you know the director or producer? Like, how did this? And then at what stage did you come into this project?
So I came in at pre-production stage. It came to me through, actually I did a feature for Nat Geo, and they recommended me because the director on this, Katie Schuler, is a Nat Geo explorer, and so they had been friends, and they said, hey, this person's okay at what she does, let's like get her on this project. And then, you know, they wanted a woman too, so that was, you know, important to them to also have that in the team and have that perspective. So we started talking like way before they went out filming and just kind of conceptually talked about what they wanted to do. And it was amazing because as they were filming, they were like sending me little sound bites of like these guys. I mean, not this guy because slots don't make a lot of noise, but like some of the other episodes, you know, they were sending me little clips, and it was really cool because I could already start to think about the music and I would be composing it a year later. So you know what I mean? So it was great, yeah.
How cool. Well, that actually transitions perfectly into my next question, which is, how did you start this project with, the audio clips and developing the sound world? And you mentioned you have some audio clips that you'd like to share.
Yeah.
Where would you like to start?
I think we might roll into...
Yeah.
Got a little class here. No, I'm joking.
Okay.
I mean, I might actually just sit this way just so people can see.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, oh gosh, there's like no one way to compose. There are composers in this room and they're going to be like, no, this is not the way I do it. But this is my process. I feel like, you know, there's kind of 4 steps to the score development process, and we start off with concept development, which is, you know, just really sketching. It's really idea sketching, and I'll jump into it in a second. And then we do a spotting session, and we jump into composition and recording, and then it's all about the score delivery, which is the whole thing in itself. So yeah, like conceptually, Yeah, I mean, we start developing concepts at any point. So, for example, this rom-com I'm about to work on, I've only read the script and seen the deck, and we're already kind of starting to like think of ideas. So it can really happen at any stage. Or we just come in sometimes at the last minute in post-production, right? I mean, you probably experienced the same thing where it's like, we need a score in 2 weeks, get it done. You know what I mean?
That's a high pressure situation. But when
Right.
there's a deadline and you get it done. But yeah, at what stage do you prefer to get? Do you like starting earlier on? Do you like being in the middle? Do you like having a final cut ready to go to score the picture, or what's your preference?
I think I like being involved earlier on because I think you feel that you're a part of it, and you're a part of the team, and you kind of get inside people's heads and understand like what they've been through. It's like really emotional, you know, developing a film and putting or a TV show and putting all your effort into it. It can be really, I don't know, all consuming, and it's really nice like when you can be like a community rather than just being like, oh, we're co-workers and I'm going to come in here and then you're going to come in here. You know, you actually feel like you're like collaborating and building something together. Like I've had the producer call me up, and I'm sure she won't mind me saying this, but it's like she's called me up in tears going, I'm just like really stressed. And sometimes you're just there as like a sounding board to your mate, right? So anyway, so I think like with concept development, where scores are heading right now, and you'll probably hear this whether you're a musician or not, is you can either go, you know, super ambient where the music feels like it kind of lives in, or the music's very abstract and it's like you're living in a world, right? And then you can go very melodically driven, which was this score. There was a reason why they wanted it. I think because documentary, sometimes you need things to kind of push it along a bit. And, you know, that was a very overscored, like I was actually even listening to it now and I'm like, we could have cut out so much music, but that's kind of the vibe they wanted. So yeah, and then
I appreciated it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it too. But and sometimes it can be like a bit of both, right? The ambient and the melodically driven.
Yeah, I think you did have a really nice mix though of like some more ambient stuff versus the more like stuff with a groove or mallets or the plucked strings and things like that. So yeah, I know you had some like sound clips that inspired the world.
Yeah.
Did you have? I'm curious also like what the temp was like. Did they start with piano and strings, or what gave you the idea for using your voice on it, which is really beautiful?
Yeah, the temp, I mean, we're going to play actually in a second the temp music. I mean, I'll start from like where I usually start from. And for me, understanding what I call like the heartbeat of the film or the show is really, really important. And what I usually do is I watch it without the sound on. And I just want to show everybody, because, you know, film and TV is made by humans, right? And so you've got like so many different levels of humans driving the heartbeat. You've got the narrative, like the dialogue, then you've got the people breathing, you've got the cinematographer at the pace they're filming, then you've got the editor at the pace they're editing. And so I feel it's like really nice to be able to like listen to just that and try to understand where is actually the central heartbeat. And I'll show you, I might mess this up because it is kind of like the end of the week, but if you don't mind playing the next clip, please. Yeah, so if I was to watch this, and you got Nat sound here, and you kind of feel this pace, you know what I mean? And so that's kind of like literally where I start. And then, yeah, I think then from there, the temp score that they had was actually like super, okay, so it's so cool. Ash, she's the editor on here, she's a DJ at night. And so she had like really down-tempo electronic tracks, and I love them. I was like, let's do this. And then the producer, she's like, no, we need like music to kind of help drive it, because I think with slots, you know, they are a little slow. So they kind of, you know, we needed to like up the energy a bit. And then it was kind of also, I guess, the reason, okay, so starting with the sloths, I think one thing to think about with like conceptual development is also not portraying a character or an archetype the way it usually gets portrayed, right? So sloths are usually like silly, quirky, and it's usually comedic music, and we purposely wanted to bring out the beautiful characteristic that they have, the beauty in their slowness, right? And so that's kind of what we wanted in the music. And then overarching, like over all the episodes, is obviously this female theme and these like amazing, like tenacious, like women that we wanted to portray through music. And so that's why we had like that vocal in there, which you would have heard that, you know what I mean, going through it. And so that was kind of then the other concept that would weave through each of the episodes.
Yeah, that was really gripping. That just, yeah, I got the chance to hear Tammy's amazing theme at a concert we both were on last summer, was it?
That's right. That's when I first met you, actually.
That's when we first met.
Yeah.
And I heard this theme, like you started with that opening theme, and I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, who is this person? So, yeah,
Thank
that
you.
was
That's
like,
sweet.
and that was really just goes to show how strong the melody is, because it really stands up on its own. And I love the way you weave it through the rest of the score. And then you have like the really slow stuff with like the sloths in the trees is very airy and dreamy. Was that something you talked about with the directors, like before you started scoring during the spotting session, or how did you kind of come up with those different themes for the different parts?
Yeah, it came about accidentally. So when I started scoring, I happened to be on a family holiday. I didn't want to work on this project at that time because I'm like, I'm going on my family holiday. But anyway, we were in Sri Lanka, and we were actually in Yala National Park, which is it's a wildlife, park, and they do a lot of conservation as well on the property. And we were staying in a cabin like right in the middle of the park, like for a number of days. And it was really cool because it was the best inspiration, because I just realized, we'd have like monkeys jump on the roof and like wake us up in the morning, and then you'd hear birds singing, and then this one singing and that one singing. And they don't harmonically make sense. Like if you were to map it out on a piano, right? Like there's no, harmonic structure there. It's so spontaneous rhythmically, but there's something so beautiful about it. And so that's what I wanted. You might hear, if you listen to it properly, it's a bit hard to hear on these speakers, but like some, instruments just kind of come in like spontaneously through. And I really wanted to have that spontaneity in the score.
Yeah, you really feel that. And I like how like the tempo also moves throughout, like it picks up a little bit after we go from the airy trees, then we go to like them walking through the forest, and the tempo picks up a little bit, and then you introduce the dog theme, like Keisha, and it gets really playful, and there's like a groove to it. So yeah, I love the way it evolves. Yeah, and then I'm just curious, like how do you like to compose? Do you start chronologically at the beginning of the film, or do you choose a pivotal scene later in the film and make it like, build it around that?
I think we might move to, we might skip, if we go to maybe, the spotting, I guess is kind of like the first place where we start in terms of before jumping into score, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
And really in that spotting session, it can have anyone in it. So it could just be the composer and the director. In this case, it was the composer, the producer, the director, the editor. Sometimes I've had like with Nat Geo and like bigger kind of companies, there's been like 8 people in the spotting session. So it just kind of really depends on, who's like involved and has a say. One thing that's really important is that like people have their roles like to play. Like this was great because the producer was all about high level. She's like, okay, I'm getting bored at this point. We need to like, amp up the music. Whereas Katie was very like the narrative, like the story kind of gatekeeper. And then Ash was obviously editor, and she was just really picky about, okay, this is, where the music should start and end and things like that. So everyone had a role, which was helpful. One thing we also do is like iron out audio, requirements in terms of, how do you actually deliver the score? Because what can happen is if you don't have the details of that, sometimes you can get further down the line and then it can be a little bit, tricky. And then we work through one scene at a time. So we literally will do start, stop on, a scene at a time and talk through what's the overall tone, what are the dialogue moments we want to highlight or leave room for, what's the character development that needs to be done, melodically, energy and tonal shifts. Like, is there anything about the temp that, they love as well that we want to kind of keep, in the score?
Yeah. Tell me more about that. Did they have any temp love that they were like, oh, we really need this, this tempo or this kind of instrumentation? Or you mentioned they're sort of opposing, different opinions about that, or their director really wanted, or was it the producer who really wanted, real, orchestral music or something that's more of a score feel?
Yeah, no, the temp, fortunately with this project, they were go for your life, and it's kind of, but you don't always get that. I have worked with directors, and that's totally fine, who love their temp music. And I really sometimes respect that, because something I'm learning now, being more involved in pre-production, there's a writer I'm working with right now, and she has a playlist that she was playing in the background when she was writing, right? So there's sometimes an affinity, a really strong affinity that makes up the DNA of the project. And so sometimes I'm really respectful. If there's something about it that they really like, I'm like, cool, let's try and get something in this zone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes people know exactly what they want, and you got to kind of capture the same feeling as the temp. And then sometimes they're like, I have no idea, throw me some ideas. And then
Right.
you just kind of trial and error that way. So that's cool. It sounds like kind of a nice balance of both, where you didn't have to do exactly too close what the tempo's doing, and you kind of bring your own ideas to it.
Yeah.
So, very cool.
And I'll just quickly, there's a little gosh, getting so technical here, but this is Ida's seen this before because she's working, and so is Victoria. But so these are the spotting notes, that where we keep track of everything. I won't, bore you with the detail, but essentially it's really kind of everything needs to be, file named really, really carefully, your time codes, version control in terms of that, the status of where the score is at. And if we keep moving along, the tempo, the key, the theme, and we capture all the notes in here as well. So yeah, so it's kind of, that's the process, and that's a working document that everyone can share. There's also software programs that can do this, but I'm old school and I like spreadsheets, so we do it that way. But thanks so much. I think we'll move back to the main slide. Yeah.
Okay, very cool. Well, I'm curious, I think back to my question about the opening theme. Did that come first, or did that come later, or how did that come to you?
Yeah, the opening theme definitely came first. And I don't know, I have this weird thing where I don't know, it just comes to me, and so I don't know how to explain it. But I heard it, and after watching it, I just kind of, this melody popped into my head, and I was like, okay, this has to be, it's got to feel like a woman, like a war cry type thing that can then, transform into other things as well. So yeah. And I think there might be a clip on the previous slide. I'm so sorry, we're jumping around. Yes, this one here. Sometimes I also sampled some of the species as well. So this was a lemur, which I then transformed. I processed it and then transformed him, and I added a electric guitar and a cello, which kind of mimics his voice. So we'll have a listen to it. Oh, sorry, I think it might be maybe it was the next slide after. Oh yeah, it might be this one. Oh, no, it's not.
No.
It's not. Okay, don't worry, we've lost that slide. Anyway, it was done at some point.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It's really cool. It's is it this one or?
I don't. Oh yeah, original sample. Thank you so much.
There's so much of her.
So they make that sound. So that lead line is like a sampled lemur, as an example. Thank you so much. Yeah.
I love how you like took the sound design and made that part of the score. That's really, really cool. That's very
I know.
very
Unfortunately,
unique.
couldn't do it with a sloth, but yeah.
I also wanted to ask, like, I know you play violin and piano, and I saw a few clips of you playing on your Instagram page. Like, did you play on the score? Did you have any other live instrumentalists?
Yeah, so I'm a really bad violinist now. So usually I sketch out my stuff. I can play piano still, but violin I usually sketch it out and then I get some much better violinists to play. So I had this one. I recorded the vocals and the everything else, and then we had the string quartet record over as well. So depending on the budget, like not always do we have the budget to record a full orchestra. So in the case of this, we get a little creative, and there's a lot you can do with like layering instruments and recording them multiple times to like make them sound a lot more full as well. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Instruments I played, not because I can play them, but just to kind of give it a bit more of an ambient feel. So yeah.
That's really cool. And so when you did hire the string quartet, did you have a mock-up that you showed the team before you hired the live players, or how did that work?
Yeah, so usually what we do is we, get everything transcribed and notated for them, and they have, samples to listen to as well. And yeah, I mean, these guys are like crazy talented, so they can look at something and sight read it and just play it, and it's super efficient. So yeah, never be afraid if you're ever wanting to like put live musicians in your scores. Like it's actually really possible to do if you be really creative about it.
Yeah, and it brings so much too. Like, you could do a lot with samples, but just having even one or two players really brings so much to the score.
Yeah,
so.
it really does.
Yeah.
It's just that human thing.
Yeah. And then about towards the end of the process, did you hire a mixing engineer to mix the score before you got to the dub? And were you part of the dub, like sound mix process?
Yeah. So with this particular project, I did have a sound engineer who I work with do the mixing. He did the mixing of the show as well as the soundtrack, because usually the soundtrack has a very different mix to it. By the way, lesson learned, guys, get your soundtrack mixed early, because I don't know, there's like a whole process of getting that, especially when you're working like with a studio to get approvals, and there's like a whole lot of red tape, and we made a bit of a mistake, like leaving that a bit to the end, and so that was like a little bit of a lesson that I learned. And then, yeah, fortunately with this one, I was able to be part of the sound mix. So we mix with OTB Birds. If you're ever looking for really cool, like women sound designers and sound mixers, they're really amazing. I like to be a part of it. Not always are you able to be a part of it, because it just really depends on like how people like to work. And I think with this particular project, I think it's important because when we're composing, the edit we're listening to does not have the final sound effects. It does not have the final sound design. The dialogue's not often like EQ'd, and when I mean EQ'd, it's like kind of getting the mix right. As you can hear, like I'm not judging the speakers whatsoever, but like these speakers, they were pumping mids and basses, right? And so like it's really important to understand like what you're working with. And so sometimes I like to be involved. And what we do is we always deliver stems. So, for example, it'll be instrument groups of like the string section, the synthesizers, blah, 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 sections. But if anything is carrying a lead line, like a vocal or something that could clash with the dialogue, we usually stem that out separately so that the sound mixer has the ability to like weave that around. So yeah, I don't know, I just like to be there, because sometimes you pick up stuff that just needs to be adjusted, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I really noticed how prominent the music is, but without stepping on the dialogue. And so you get to really enjoy the fullness and the emotion that you're bringing into the music.
Right.
And then, but the message is really coming across really clearly too, which I find is very, very awesome. So
Totally.
it's not always the case. What do you think? Oh, yeah. So did you have that temp to like what we heard in the temp music
Yes,
versus?
we do. Yeah, so this is we're just about to listen to the opening, the cold open with the temp to the score, so you can kind of hear the difference. So it has the right like morning vibes, something's getting started, you know, typical start of a show.
Tamara and I are definitely opposites.
Our shared obsession with wildlife is what really brought us together.
Tamara and I are definitely opposites.
Our shared obsession with wildlife is what really brought us together.
Yeah, so that's yeah, so I guess it's just about giving it its own identity and, you know, having, you know, we wanted to bring out those two female opposites, right? One who starts her morning like in a very slow, what are all the girls saying now? The slow life
Like
or whatever. I
morning
don't know,
ritual.
what is the
Slow
life? I don't know,
living.
like, you know, and then there's Tamara who's like up there like doing weights. So we wanted to show, you know, that juxtaposition in these two personalities. Yep.
Yeah. Well, you did that really well. And like, yeah, I love how like, you know, you could really hear the difference between like a temp score, which is kind of generic, you know, against this picture, and then, you know, the kind of personality and emotion that you're bringing into the story. So well done.
Thank you.
Yeah. So where can we watch this? Is this available streaming anywhere?
Yeah.
Can we see the rest of this?
It's available on all PBS platforms, and they also have some shorter like clips that they release on YouTube so people can watch it, because all of the ladies who worked on this, like they wanted to watch it, and there's like PBS is only an American platform, so they put some like shorter clips on YouTube as well. But yeah, that's
Go watch it. The amazing Tammy, and yes, big fan of you and your music, so go watch the rest of the series. I'd love to open the rest of this up to questions, if anyone has any questions you'd like to ask Tammy.
I was interested in hearing about how you decided to do the string quartet. Did you pad that with samples, or how did you make the decision of like, okay, I've got to build up the orchestra and then incorporate those? Can you talk about that process?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I definitely did pad it up with like other samples as well, because I think like with this score, I think it kind of needed to feel a little bit more like full, and so that's kind of the reason why I layered, yeah, the strings. But we also recorded each like string part multiple times, so it was like several players kind of playing. So it's kind of trying to trick the ear a little. Yeah. That's a good question.
Great question. Yeah, I think it did just that, just really filled it out, and it felt really lush and really, really beautiful. So, any other questions for Tammy in the back?
Is there a difference for your creative process when you're working and sustain yourself as a composer and a musician versus when you got an orchestra noble?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So do you mean if you have like an orchestra available at your hand, like to, yeah, wow, okay. Not many of us unfortunately do. I would love to, I would
Big
love to be
budgets.
Hans Zimmer and have an orchestra, no, but I know kind of, I mean, the composer I worked for first, I mean, he was in the studio system where they had like that all available, right? But yeah, I think your question was mainly what happens, right, when you don't have that situation, is that right?
Yeah, how does it impact your creative process? When
Yeah.
you choose just you.
I mean, I don't know how to say this without sounding really weird and loopy, but like when I write, I hear a full orchestra in my head, like that just come, like I hear the whole thing. And for me, when I compose, it's actually just like working backwards from that. And so I don't know whether it's because I played in orchestras and I kind of know exactly what it's going to sound like, but that's, I think composers are different, right? Like some people compose that way and then some people start from like an idea and then build up. So
Yeah.
that's definitely my style.
Yeah, some people start from a piano sketch, some people start from singing a melody. There's like no real formula. It's just a matter of like a personal preference or what comes naturally to you.
Yeah, totally. So like, I don't know, it's a weird thing, but I can hear like what the whole, every part is going to do, and that's just kind of what it is. So yeah. I don't want to put myself in that category. But anyway, I would hope that I'd be a lot further in my career if I was like, no. Anyway, no, but thank you. It's a good question. But I think, yes, most of the time, like a lot of composers work with like, you know, one instrument, like Becca said, and just like building up. Yep.
Yeah, or even a sound, like if you build, like, do you find that like when you're starting a project, do you like to build a sound template or like pick out certain sounds to for that specific project? And
Yeah,
then,
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so usually what we do is we build like a template which has, you know, all of our samples in it. We have amazing samples these days. Like we're so lucky with technology where we have like any instrument under the sun, like that's being sampled, including world instruments which are in this particular piece. But yeah, so we set up usually that template and just to make the workflow a lot easier. Yeah.
Very cool. I'm curious also, did you have a lot of like notes or did the music evolve a lot during the scoring process? Like, what was that process like for you in this
Yeah,
particular project?
there's a lot of back and forth. I know we didn't get a chance to talk about it, but I mean, you know, we use like Vimeo and Frame.io and all those other tools to kind of, you know, grab like time-coded, comments, oh my goodness, from whoever's involved. And then, yeah, usually there is a lot of back and forth. I mean, some of these we're on like V12, V14, some of them are V1, and you just get it right the first time. It's probably similar to what editors go through as well. You know, sometimes you hit it and sometimes you don't. Yeah.
Sometimes the ideas come easily, and yeah, exactly. Like every cue is different. So, how long did you have to score this project from start to finish?
It's a good question. It depended on, because at the start, they really we were rushed. I did an episode, and I don't condone doing this, I did an episode in a week, which is like a lot of music. But ideally, for 30-minute episode, or 30 minutes of music, you probably want like at least 2 to 3 weeks, even 4 if you're lucky. But TV, unfortunately, moves pretty fast, so sometimes you can be doing, it all in a week.
Yeah. Any other questions for Tammy?
Yes.
Wait.
Tammy, congratulations. Like, the music is so good.
Oh, thank you. So sweet. She's a composer, so that means a lot coming from a musician.
Like, I really love the pacing of the music. Like, I hear a lot of houses and they're so cohesive, but they don't feel like repetitive at all. Like, I can see you put a lot of effort using the sounds to differentiate the cues. I really love it. Yeah. So my question is like, I wonder how's the spotting session situation is like for this project, because some directors, they put in 10 music and they're very precise on I want music in here, use it out here. So for this project, is it like a decision music by then, or is it an open conversation?
That's a great question. It's definitely an open conversation, especially I've been really lucky to work with collaborators who like want to hear my opinion, and often, you know, I will say to them, actually, I don't think we need music. I think this one had a lot of music. Like I said, I think if you listen to some later episodes, you'll see that we evolved a bit and we're like, actually, we don't need so much music in it. But yeah, usually it is collaborative where we talk, you know, where are the right moments to like start music to end, you know, the cue. What should the pacing be like? Our producer is very much about like keeping the audience, like, you know what I mean, like engaged. And so she was like very vocal in terms of that. But yeah, I think it is collaborative for sure. Yeah.
Great question. Yes.
And how do you know when to cue, and isn't like the instinct that you have, or does it happen in a lot of collaborative system that you have?
Yes, it's a really good question. I think it's an instinct. Like after you've been doing it for a while, you naturally like feel there's like a shift in emotion or a shift in something that's happening where it's like, okay, I need to like either introduce that shift or I need to come into the shift. You know what I mean? And so you kind of, it is definitely like an intuition thing, and it's trial and error too. So sometimes the cue might start and then we'll be like, oh, that doesn't work and it needs to be pushed back, right? So yeah, it's, I don't know. Do you have any good answers on that? You're a composer too?
I mean,
was hoping you
sometimes I feel like the team sometimes will put the temp music where they want score, and then, but sometimes that will evolve, like if there's, like you
Right.
said, a transition, or maybe like it's stepping on something too much, or there's too much dialogue. I thought
Yeah.
you did a really beautiful job. Like with documentary, it's a little bit trickier because there's so much dialogue, but you like had the perfect balance of like weaving in music that didn't step on any dialogue, and you know, while still like really working cohesively as a score. So did that answer your question? Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi.
Ask you, because for me, I think that the thing is always craving a recipe. So do you have like a spice that you always like to use?
Oh, I love that question. That's awesome.
So,
Spice.
so you have somehow the chili, like what do you like to use when you have opportunity?
I love that. That's actually I love that question. Funny enough, like even though I'm a pianist, I try not to use piano. I think there was a bit of piano, wasn't there, in this one? My most favorite instrument is the cello. And you will hear it a lot in my scores and I'm not even a cellist, but I guess understand it being a violinist, but there's something like so melodically, like you can do so many things with it. As you would know, extended techniques, what that means is not necessarily always using the cello conventionally where you like play it with a bow. You might be playing it in different parts of the fret. Fret is guitar on the strings, and then in terms of, you know, using other techniques to kind of get different kind of sounds out of it, even like tapping on the cello. It's just like there's so much. I don't know. I think it's a really stunning instrument, but now I need to probably not use it as much because I use it a lot. So yeah.
Was
That's my
that,
fave.
there was a part where I felt like there was maybe tapping on a string, like during a certain groove. I was
That
like,
I think I did myself on my
Yeah.
electric violin.
Ah.
So anything that's like can be camouflaged, I will play it myself. But anything that's like out there, I'm not going to be playing the violin. Yeah.
I mean, I think you can never have too much cello, so yeah. Is that everything? Anything on that?
Thank you so much for your time. I'm curious, like, what's something, you know, this was so wonderful to watch and, of course, experience. What's something now that you're excited about? And how do you feel like, you know, as a composer, like, how do you feel you, or just, you know, just as a person within this industry, like, what do you think works for you to, like, put yourself out there and kind of get the next goal, the next project? Like, how do you find that confidence to keep, like, forging ahead, even when you, like, you know, as we all do, like, if you did like a snack or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, not that this was like a planted question, but to be honest, this program, like with Women in Film, has been like incredible. I think you've experienced the same thing, right? I think on so many levels. So when I moved here, I didn't know anybody at all in the industry. And then your first point of call is you kind of meet other composers, like, you know, so many mutual friends that we have. And it's awesome because the composing community is like super friendly and supportive, and I don't know, it's really, really nice. There's only, you know, you get a few odd ones, but most of us are pretty nice. But yeah, and then, you know, so I was finding though, because I didn't go through the film school system, right, or in America, I didn't have like naturally any film collaborators. And so a program like this has been incredible because I've met, you know, people who are doing things in other departments all the way, you know, from casting to like cinematography to directors to writers, you name it. And I'm actually like collaborating. I think my next 4 projects are with women from Women in Film like program. And so I think like for me, that's been a big lesson of just getting out there and actively making, you know, relationships with people that don't do something that, you know, you do, and learning about what they do. And actually, I don't know, it is like my first boss told me this, but we're not in the entertainment business, or we're not in the television or film business. We're really in the people, like, it really is like referral, it's building relationships. And genuinely just wanting to make cool stuff together because you like these people and you want to work with them, you know what I mean? And so I think that's definitely been what's really helped. And I feel it's been like such a shift, which, sorry to like blab on, but like I've worked in, like I mentioned, the corporate world, and I had women bosses, and I've got to say, like, just being really candid, women bosses were not very supportive at all. Like, you know, it was all about, it was bullying, it was like, it was hard for me, so I'm going to make it hard on you. And I had a lot of those experiences, and it was interesting because through this program and just all the people I've met, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I'm learning that actually it's not like that in all communities. And so that's been, you know, a huge thing. I mean, I love working with people of all backgrounds, but that was a good learning for me, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I can really relate to that too. I had in the one corporate job I had that was like a music publishing company, I had a female boss who was really nasty. And who, as soon as I quit that job.
How can anyone be nasty to you? You're like the nicest person.
Thank you. It's possible. Unfortunately. But yeah, as soon as I quit that job, I joined the AWFC, the Women in Film, Women in Media, just like to have that sense of camaraderie and, you know, supporting each other and helping each other rise up. And similarly to you, like I've had wonderful collaborations through this fellowship program and Women in Film. And one of my next projects is also through a director fellow that I met last year.
That's awesome.
So yeah, like just really like just thank you. And it's just really good to be part of this, you know, such supportive group that, you know, we're all learning from each other. We're all growing together. So that's a beautiful thing. Tammy.
Hopefully we answered your question, didn't we?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Anyone else? Or
Been working with a lot of different projects and directors. What's something that stands out to you from those collaborations from a director standpoint and from an editing standpoint that they gave to you that was particularly helpful that you would love people to do in the future?
That's a really good question. I need to think about this for a second. So like lessons learned. Oh, I've learned so many things. I think from a director like point of view, I think the directors I work with like earlier on the piece like taught me a lot about like where music is really not needed. And that was like a really, you know, big learning thing, because I think, you know, when you start off in the earlier stages, you just kind of want to put your music everywhere. And I think, I don't know, maybe it's like a creative thing where you get so locked into your own world that you just feel like you got to like have your voice in there, but, you know, you learn that you are layering up, you know, something that's already been built with so many different like layers, and you're like coming in here to like support it all. So, I mean, I think that was a big thing. Another thing I've just learned is like, about, especially now that I'm doing a more scripted, is like learning about writers and like what writers do, and the relationship between a writer and director, because I've seen like how scripts, like when it comes to the stage of actually like pre-production, like that script can actually like transform so much, because the director is like, okay, but like how does this actually like really live, you know what I mean, on camera? And so it's been like really interesting to see that and how that evolves, and then like as a result how we all like then shift, right, too. So that's been a really good learning experience. Hope that answers your question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tammy, Ari, everyone. Thank you.
Becca, Shaq, everyone.